welcome to the Captain's Video Weblog. My name's Shomanosh and we are Friday, October the 16th, 2015. Whoa, what was that? As you might remember from yesterday's video weblog, I said that I had an exam this morning. I think it's quarter past 12 p.m. So yeah, it's really early. I think besides that time where I filmed a clip around 8 a.m. I think this is the earliest Captain's Video Weblog to date. I don't know, maybe the first ever was earlier in the morning, like 11 a.m. I'm not sure. Anyway, yeah, as you might remember from yesterday, I said that I had an exam, and yesterday I slept for like 3 hours tops, as I said. Today I managed to do even fucking better. So for starters, I had my exam at 8 a.m. So I had to be in the class by 8 a.m. You know, 8 o'clock. But then the exam started at 8:15. So I kind of cursed inside my head because every time I seem to get something right, well, I guess I could have got it a little bit wrong. It wouldn't have hurt anyone. I've seen people entering the class around 8:30 while the exam was already going. That was disheartening, really. Like, if we had the real class, I mean, would have some of those even showed up? I don't mean to badmouth people who are my classmates, but the question's there. Because it's an exam, it will count for the final grade of the whole class. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm being too much of a bitch. So yeah, I slept for 1 hour and a half, probably, because I remember falling asleep after 4 a.m., probably around 4:30. I remember that I set my first alarm for 6 a.m., 6 o'clock. I was already awake before the alarm went off. I was awake. I don't know for how long, probably 5-10 minutes. If it had been for 30 minutes, I would have been, I guess, a little bit mad. Because, I mean, that's pretty obvious. You don't want to be up too early when you've slept for probably an hour. And you have an exam that's going to count. And I was really, I mean, I feared this exam because I've been at 2 lectures, I would say. You know, the classes where in university you don't really have classes anymore. It's either some time listening to a teacher sitting in a classroom and writing nothing because everything is on the internet, or you're in front of a computer and you're not doing much besides writing lines of code. So it was the first case. The first case. We've had 4 classes, I think, and I've been to 2 because one was not scheduled and the other I couldn't wake up for it. It was last week when I was in the whole yeah, I'm gonna sleep for 10 hours thing. So I was afraid of that exam, and disappointingly it was easy. I'm saying disappointingly because I mean, I was so afraid that I would fuck it up. We have slideshows which are really. It's really the class, but on a slideshow, and I found the slideshow on the website of the university, and I copied it into my class, my lessons, because you since it's computer science, you can bring your notes on the exams, because they don't ask you to remember it by heart. They ask you to make the right lines of code. So in order to do that, sometimes you have to do some sacrifices, like allowing the notes. So I brought my notes into the class, and I nearly didn't need them. Maybe it was because I wrote them, because I remember things that I write. I really do. I tend to remember with more ease something that I've written rather than something that I've just listened to or just saw or read. That's just the way it works, I guess. But yeah. So obviously, I'm a little bit tired right now. I actually skipped the next part of the class, which was we had this exam for an hour and something like 20 minutes. I think that being a perfectionist will probably bring me some trouble in the future, because like I would have been done in probably 30 minutes, but with that uncontrollable desire to do things just the right way, I probably have lost around 40 minutes because I gave back the copy 5 minutes before the time, the last limit. But I knew that I would have been able to finish it way earlier. Like, there was one question: you have to enter the zip code of a city, and it must be a string of characters, and it must be 5 characters long. And I mean, I should have probably have skipped the classes afterwards, because there was apparently the correction of the exam. So I would have had my doubts either confirmed or totally refuted. And you have to enter the zip code, which is 5 characters. And if you do it, 5 characters, it's okay. It's a set method. It was JavaScript, so it's a set method. If you enter 5 characters, that's okay, it's set. But if you enter, and that's where I had a lot of doubts, because I was like, yeah, but what if it's over 5 characters, you have to do a system out println. This is a zip code is supposed to be 5 characters, you fucking dumbass. I didn't write it like that, but if it had been my own code that I was writing during a class, it was that. Like, we had a code to do with the verbs in French, because obviously you won't be doing verbs in English since you're in a university in France. So it was those verbs, and you have to do the first group. So the verbs that end in ER. And you have to do the conjugation at the future tense. So if it's a verb that ends in ER, that's okay. If it's not, it's supposed to send an error message. And my error message was like, the verbs in the first group end up in ER. You fucking... No, not you fucking. You moron. What? This is like first grade. All in all caps, because, you know, caps lock, cruise control for cool. But yeah, I mean, my codes are full of shit like that. Like my first map that I did on open layers, it was I decided to do a map that would depict the little island of Enoshima, of the coast of Tokyo. So and my code there, I was like, hey, it understands UTF-8, so I decided to name my HTML page open layers de hajimete no boku no hajimete no chizu, which means the first map I made with open layers, and the CSS property to put a map was just called chizu. And in the JavaScript for open layers, it was also the object chizu, which means map, because I wanted to, and I was like, hey, you can keep me from doing this. The only time where I will do something, you know, really according to the rules, will be in an exam. Like I did a little thing. The first line of code, we have to calculate the density of population of a country by entering its population and its area. So the first property, the first variable I entered was like HAB, H-A-B, before the beginning of the French word for inhabitant, you know, the habitant. And then there was, you had to enter the area. And I was like, what would be a good short form word for area in French, which is superficie. Sup, super, superf, surf for surface. And I decided to go with area because it's the easiest. And then density, you know, you just write dense, D-E-N-S. There you go. And it was all shit like that. You have to write a constructor, building module, I guess, building method, which you had to enter the name of the town, the zip code, and the country it's in. I was like, hey, yeah, okay, well, all right. And then there was the final question was a toString, and I was like, yeah, you have to write it in that class. So, I mean, I don't think it was necessary, but I added it. I added the public class and the name of the class before the methods, just to be sure that I wouldn't lose points on a technicality, you know? Because it might happen. We're in the last year before we're getting a job. It might happen. Anyway, it's pretty cold out there today. Today and yesterday. It's really gotten cold really fast. Like, the first moment when I realized that it would be going to be cold was the night from Wednesday to Thursday. So not the night, yesterday night, but the night before, where in my hometown, where the place where I live with my parents, the temperature went as low as 2 degrees Celsius. With we have this on the widget, the weather widget. We have the real feel, which means so it's 2 degrees, but maybe it feels like more, and it felt apparently like minus 2 degrees Celsius. So it was like, oh boy. And even here in Montpellier, it was probably 5 degrees, and the real feel was 1. So just to put that in perspective, I've been going out in t-shirts for a month and a half, because even when it was a bit cold, it was, you know, you didn't really have to power through it, through the cold. It was, you know, you felt like, hey, maybe I would be better with a long-sleeved shirt, but is it really necessary? Nah. Yesterday I felt that hey, it's 4 degrees outside and it's apparently really sunny, so maybe I should put the long sleeves. And boy, was I right. The whole day I was with my long sleeves and a jacket. It's a pretty light jacket. But I was like, it's pretty fucking cold. And same went for today. Like, you know, when your breath begins to make that little fog, you know that it's going to be necessary to, you know, if you don't want to die, you're going to have to wear something a little bit more hot. And last week or 2 weeks ago, there was a part of the day where I was like, hey, look at that, I make fog, but it was like, hey, it's not too cold, it's not too hot though. It's not too cold though. I was in short sleeves. I was like, yeah, it's okay. But it's not even cold like, hey, that's autumn. It's cold like, hey, that's winter. And I'm like, no, it's not winter. Fuck off. I watched the weather this morning. There are already towns which are falling under 0 degrees Celsius. And I'm like, alright. Well, that's going to be fun. Because at home I don't think I have long sleeve and long bottoms pajamas. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Even though at home there's the heater that apparently here in this residence is turned off until November, which I guess I am using less electricity, but at the same time, if I'm really fucking cold, I will have to bring a second blanket, which I will do anyway, because it's really fucking cold. And my parents' house, even my own room, my own bedroom, where the window is open but the shutters are closed, it's not cold. I woke up last weekend with some pretty heavy sweat on my brow, if I may say so myself. One last thing, I guess, which is, I'm really not doing any segue for all those things, just, pretty much rambling on, because I wanted to talk about this yesterday. I guess I have a really shitty sense of humor, because there's this thing on the internet called SoundCloud, which is users of SoundCloud uploading mashups or funny memes, le ebin meme, that's which are pretty much YouTube poop tier humor, but YouTube poop makes me laugh. Well, it made me laugh when there was a lot of it in the early days of YouTube. I've been watching YouTube even before it was acquired by Google, so you had to know a little bit of English to browse the website. I miss the old Google, the old YouTube, the old Google. Google never really changed. I guess they got rid of the Google homepage. The Google homepage, I really liked it. There was the weather, there was the news, there was a lot of stuff. I liked playing with the widgets. So the old YouTube with the front page where they recommended you some channels, and it was like, hey, well, would you look at that? And I was like, yeah? And I was like, this is really great. I'm gonna subscribe. Bam! I actually opened my account in 2007. It was the day of the presidential debate here in France. It was a terrible night for democracy. Nah, I'm just kidding. It was a pretty shitty day, because I think I had a football game the day of the presidential, the second round of the presidential elections in 2007. And it was pretty damn sure that it was Sarkozy who was going to be elected, but I didn't want to believe that. I was like, hey, maybe a woman will be president of France, and we will put it right in the ass of the USA, who haven't even elected a black man. It was before Obama. A woman arrived to the second round of the presidential election here in France. The US, they can't even put a woman in the top spots. And I'm not saying that, hey, maybe it's time for Hillary, because I think that Bernie Sanders is a better candidate. And I'm saying that because I'm very much left-wing. And even then, Bernie Sanders, I would say that he's center, really, in international politics. In the US they say he's pretty damn left-wing. He's a socialist, all that jazz. I don't think he's really socialist. He's got some really socially advanced policies that he wants to put into motion, but it's advanced only for the USA, because some of those, we've had those here for a lot of years, not the thing where we want to make the rich pay, because but I mean, the US pretty much the place where you can put a tax on the richest people and the richest companies, all that, and they would have nowhere else to go, because then where would they go? To an underdeveloped country? To Europe? Maybe to Asia? But would their assets really follow? That's the question. I mean, here in France, if we begin to tax too high, we know that the people and the companies, they would go to England, or they would go to Germany, or to the US. But if the US begins to do that thing, that could be, a real earthquake in the financial paradigm, which would be great. Because, I mean, the States, they are in huge crisis. There are a lot of countries that are facing recession, and I think that, if you put money in their economy, and you're not afraid to do it, well, maybe it will work. Or maybe if you would do like we did with Germany after World War II, where we just cancelled part of their debt. Yeah, I think that Germany tends to forget that. Not Germany itself, but the Germans. And even the politics in Germany. Yeah. What else? I mean, I'm probably going to talk about a lot of stuff. So, SoundCloud, yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, it's one of the sounds I discovered lately was a propane shop, which is a thrift shop, the instrumental, with sound bites from King of the Hill, the Fox show. I found it. It's got a lot of creativity. It's really into all those internet genres like vaporwave, or C-punk. Yeah, and it's really interesting to see. Hey, I'm taking a look at me now, and I'm putting I don't know, Skrillex, or that guy who says dicks on the internet, and some speedcore, and bam, you've got a mashup. Or Corycore, which is the lyrics, a series of mashups of the theme song of Cory in the House with various songs, including Chateau from the Matrix Reloaded, or the Crazy Frog, I think. Or, man, the sounds where you just, pitch shifting, or just playing, fiddling with the songs, like there was this one thing with Beat It, and it's not only with Beat It, but it was also with Gold Digger and there was lots of things, you know, like mashing up Death Grips. Oh yeah, Death Grips. Oh boy, with Yoshi's Island. Woo! Or with surf music, like you know, there's the song where MC Wright begins and says, "I fuck the music, I make it come. I fuck the music with my serpent tongue," and the way he pronounces it, you could probably believe that he was saying, "I fuck the music with my surf and turf." And there's "into the flames, into the fire. There he goes for a thing, fuck the lie, I'm the lord of the game," and all that with a surf music riff on the background. And it's really, I mean, it's a lot of creativity. It's actually sort of cringe music, you know? It's cringe humor in musical form. It's like, yeah, that's really something that I cannot bring myself to appreciate on an artistic level, but I'm like really pissed because it matches up so well. And some of those have begun producing real music, because it's still music, but they've begun producing, like there's a Holder who was formerly known as Major League Wobbs, who's produced well, I mean, it's still complicated to say, hey, it's real music, because he's produced Filthy Frank's the beat for Filthy Frank's song Dumplings, Trap Dumplings, as it's called on the channel, under his alias Pink Omega, which I guess would mean that it's actually Pink Guy rapping about dumplings. I'm not sure. Only listen it on SoundCloud. Maybe we'll have to watch the video, because I mean that would make a lot of sense if it were Pink Guy, who is really the rapping person of Filthy Frank. He raps about a lot of disgusting shit, but he does rap really well. Like Ramen King, he's got the flow. Joji, he's got the flow. I really liked when he was doing the Joji vlogs. It was really interesting. I'm sad that it just stopped. I guess that it's like in Joji's Medicine Beat song, "Don't Be What You Want To," because I think he really wanted to share those beats of I guess normal life, whether it was in Japan or in the USA, and I think that the fan base were expecting Filthy Frank level bullshit, except it wasn't. It's not going to be like that. Joji is a very talented man, and I wish I was half as talented as him, because I'm barely at the level where I would think, hey, maybe I could do better than this video of Filthy Frank. I don't know, man, really. What else? There was something that was pissing me off. I talked about it in an earlier video weblog. It was with the situation with the refugees, where they said, hey, we only want, some countries said, yeah, we only want Christians. I was like, hey, when we ask, one thing that really pissed me off, especially when I thought about it, it was like, Lebanon has been kind of forced, I guess, to welcome 1 million refugees. And just think about it, the population of Lebanon is 4 million. Means they've got a 1/4, 25%, the equivalent of 25% of their population that came as refugees. Just think about it. In a country like France, where we're supposed to get 20 or 200, I might be exaggerating. We are expecting thousands, tens of thousands of refugees. Even though I don't understand when they would come here, because the press is all about bashing on the strangers, especially the refugees, because hey, they might be from ISIS. They're saying Allahu Akbar, but they are Muslims. It's a Muslim thing. It means God is great. Ooh, wow. And yeah, the day where we have to welcome 15 million refugees, I will say, okay, maybe it's a little bit too much, because Lebanon, it's a country that is deep, knee deep. I mean, wait, maybe even chest deep, like they maybe got shit up to their chin, like they're raking shit with their chin. We are nowhere near that. I know that France and other big developed countries are in a dire situation when it comes to some parts of the population. Doesn't mean that we cannot make them come. You know, refugees, they need a place to go. There's also the criticism of, yeah, maybe they could go other places where there's not war, like Turkey. You know that some of them are Kurds. If they go to Turkey, they might get thrown in jail because they're Kurds. Or Serbia. Oh yeah, Serbia. Hungary, boy howdy. There were talks about a pan-European force of frontier police, which would be a good thing, I guess, to avoid some of the things that happened in Bulgaria, Romania. I don't think a lot have happened in Romania, but I know that some disturbing stuff happened in Bulgaria and Hungary. And maybe that would be avoided if we threw some guys who might not be as racist as Eastern Europeans. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying stereotype, because I don't want to put all in the fire, but the Eastern Europeans, they're kind of racist though, because I mean that's just how it is. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'm going to maybe cut the lights off and try maybe sleep a little before going to the station, to the train station, because I'm really tired, and I'm afraid that I might fall asleep in the train and go further than my intended stop, as it happened at least twice. It's early in the afternoon, so it's not that bad. The times where I missed my stop, where it was later in the afternoon. It was one time it was raining and it was dark. It was after dark, and I was like, oh god. So anyway, thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Probably will film it in my garden. I don't know, or maybe in my living room if I happen to have to film it at 2:30 in the morning. This is really good. Goodbye.